Alright guys, today's episode is gonna be interesting, okay?
This coup would see the assassination of the Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, the Premier of the Northern Region Sir Amadu Bello, as well as the Premier of the Western Region Chief Samuel Akintola. But rather suspiciously, the President, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, would manage to escape the bloodbath as he was out of the country on holiday when the coup took place. But despite the execution of many key members of the government, the coup led by Major Nzeogwu was ultimately unsuccessful, as it was quashed by a different faction of the Nigerian army, led by Major General Johnson Aguiyi Ironsi, who, interestingly enough, was also of Igbo ancestry. After managing to secure the surrender of the coup plotters, Aguiyi Ironsi was declared military head of state. But even though both the instigator and the stopper of the coup were of Igbo descent, various conspiracy theories began to spread in the north, suggesting that the entire thing was all part of an undercover master plan to put General Aguiyi Ironsi in power and transfer control of Nigeria over to the Igbos. President Nnamdi Azikiwe had avoided all the drama thanks to his suspiciously timed holiday, while Michael Okpara, the Premier of the Eastern Region, had also managed to survive the coup, even though he did end up losing his job to Colonel Chukwuemeka Ojukwu, the man who would later go on to lead Biafra's attempt to break away from Nigeria.
So there's this recent trend of IBB's book, what he wrote and everything he wrote about the Nigerian Civil War not really being an Igbo something. It's just important for us to talk about history, what happened, what's the genesis of the Nigerian war, so that you get to understand this Nigerian Civil War, what happened, who was the leader then, what was IBB's involvement and all those things. But before we go into that, this Nigerian Civil War, it took place between 1967 and it lasted for 3 years till about 1970. Yeah, so that's one of the most significant events in Nigeria, and it really led to the death of millions of Nigerians, soldiers and the citizens as well. Okay, so but before we go into that, let's look at Nigeria as a whole, as a country. It's a wonderful country. It's a multi-ethnic country, and predominantly we have the Hausas, the Igbos, and the Yorubas. All right, so the basic differences between these tribes is basically on the language, their dressing, and basically on the culture, like marriage culture and all that. So these are the significant differences, right? So when you talk about the Igbos, basically or traditionally, the Igbos have, their major leader, or they're ruled by Ezes, which is like the Igwe or kings in English, yeah? So in the process of selection is basically more of a democratic process. Then the Igbos are mainly known for being, innovative. They are very, very entrepreneurial, and that's why part of most of the major industries in the countries, you see Igbos, doing so well in there because they are very enterprising, and they like to travel to find new opportunities, to get new ideas. They are open to ideas and all that. So amazing set of people, amazing culture, amazing, so they occupy mostly the southeastern part of Nigeria. Yeah. And then about the Hausas, the Hausas are like, they have like the highest, one of majorly the highest population in Nigeria, and they're basically in the northern part of Nigeria. So the houses are ruled by sultans and emirates, traditionally, and they're mostly, unlike the Igbos, they are mostly Christians. The houses are mostly, Muslims. Yeah. So amazing people, amazing set of people, and then the last group, which is like the major three, the third one is the Yorubas. So the Yorubas is like, in between the Igbos and the Hausas. So their ruling is, the Hausas are more autocratic in the rulings. The Igbos process is more democratic, but the Yorubas kind of balances it out. So the Yorubas are really known for arts and crafts, So that's why mostly when you talk about, prominent stars, in terms of arts like Fela Kuti, or when you talk about literature like Wole Soyinka, they are majorly from the Yoruba tribe. So these are the major three regions in Nigeria, or three ethnic groups in Nigeria. So what happened? What happened? So before these three became one in 1914, the amalgamation by Frederick Lugard, in 1914. So before they became one, that was like the pre-colonial era. So then when during the amalgamation era, which is like because it has two stages: the pre-colonial, the colonial era, and the post-colonial era. So after the amalgamation, there was no really strong bond or ties, because the leadership of Nigeria, after they got their independence in 1960, the colonial masters mostly gave the power to the north, right? So they're more of it has a part of like making the north, because they are not solely they didn't really solely accept Western education. So in as much as the colonial masters left us, but it kind of exhibits more of they still have an impact in Nigeria's economy and all that, because the people that they gave the allegedly gave the power to, first of all, everything about this video is allegedly. I wasn't there, so it's all about stories that comes down to us, and we're telling the stories. So they still have that influence through the Hausas, on Nigeria's economy, because Nigeria are mainly known for their oil. So when Nigeria got their independence from the colonial masters in 1960, so we decided to rule ourselves, and it didn't go so easy, it didn't go so well. You can imagine from 1914 that we are amalgamated and ruled by the colonial masters, all the way down to 1960, but immediately they gave us power. It was like things turned around, because the power is more or less concentrated in the north. So there is this fractions that started happening in terms of the Igbos not really being allowed into the power sector, in terms of like the zenith of it, to rule, or to so the Igbos started feeling that they started feeling disenfranchised. They started feeling like they are not totally being carried along. They are not fully being given the opportunity as well as one Nigeria. So in 1960, when we got our independence, so we were ruled by the head of state then was Alhaji Abubakar, and one of the people that he ruled with in the Europe, Abubakar was from the Hausa region, and part of the people he ruled with in the southeast region is Nnamdi Azikiwe, and in the Yoruba region was Awolowo. So Elijah Abubakar was the head of state. Nnamdi Azikiwe was regarded as a ceremonial president then, and so they still had each region still have their people that are ruling them, but like the general head of state was Abubakar. So as things went on, the Igbos being feeling disenfranchised, feeling like they were not fully included in the political structure, but because the Igbos like kind of embraced Western education, part of the criteria then in getting into the army is being trained, being qualified, so because the Igbos accepted the Western education, they were able to get into the army more, and also in part of the high ranking positions in the army, according to stories. So when they kept rising in the army, getting their numbers in the army and all that, and going up to the top positions, then at a time, some of there was a coup in 1966, so by Nzogo. So Nzogo led the coup, like to assassinate some of these major leaders, like Tafawa Tafawa Balewa, even Ahmed Bello. Ahmed Bello was the prime minister of the northern region then. Then the prime minister of the eastern region then was that was Michael Okpara. Yes, Michael Okpara. So, and in the western region was Akintola. So the thing there was when Zogo, got involved, some other soldiers, because they were in the soldiers, for them to take over the civilian rule, because according to the story, it wasn't just that they were disenfranchised. They were also feeling like, the wealth of the states, they were used for personal gains, transacting with some other countries that were benefiting from our countries. And, it was like they were feeling like there was a direct, corruption between the leaders and, trading our assets with, the outside world and all that for their own personal gains and all that. So, they felt, the corruption was raging. So it wasn't just Igbo members that were, it wasn't just the Igbo tribe that were part of the coup. So there were still other tribes there, but just that because, the number of the Igbos were more, so that's why it was later misinterpreted as an Igbo coup. So according to what IBB is telling us, and, other coup plotters as well, from what they wrote. So they felt, that bad. They wanted to restructure Nigeria. They were motivated by, the coup that happened in Russia and the coup that happened in China and all that. They wanted, their wish was to, get back power from these people that they seemingly perceive as corrupt, and, have a military regime, because it was civilian regime, between that 1960 to 1966, when they planned for the coup, so that they will not enter military regime. So they planned the coup, but unfortunately for Nigeria as a country and everything, their whole plan, the killing was somehow, the killing seemed selective, because Nnamdi Azikiwe was on holiday, in quote, and they didn't also kill Michael Okpara, which was like the Eastern prime minister then. So they killed Tafawa Balewa, that was the head of state. They killed Ahmed Bello, that was like the Hausa prime minister at that time. The killing was more like, it was tilting more of, they killed more of like the Hausas, in power, because majorly the Hausas were more in power. Do you get? So, more of the Hausas were killed, and there also some Yorubas that were also in power. So it didn't really involve killing of Igbos. So because of that, according to IBB's book, he illustrated how they were bashing them as soldiers. Oh, you are there, they're killing your brothers, and so the thing took a toll on the Hausa soldiers, and there was really chaos, because they were being battered at home. Their people were telling them they're killing your people and you're not doing anything, So after the killing of Tafawa Balewa, Agui Ironsi rose as the head of state, and unfortunately, Agui Ironsi was also Igbo. Do you get? So Nzogu is Igbo that led the coup, and Agui Ironsi that rose was also Igbo. So it really made the fact to not the fact, it made the rumors to spread that it was an Igbo coup. They want to take back power and all that. But according to the plotters, they were like, it's not really their intention. It was like to regain, them, to regain a military regime where they would really, do a lot about the corruption going on and all that. But because, who will replace Tafawa Balewa and all that, it needed somebody at the top as well. And, like I said before, the Igbos embraced Western education, so they were more into part of the high ranks in the army as well. So that's how Aguiyi, took power and all that. So as at then, the eastern region already has Chukwemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu as like their head then. So when all this started happening, the Hausas were being thrown, the Hausa soldiers were being thrown by their people. You were silent and they killed all your people and all that. They started feeling that pressure, from family, from everywhere, and the pressure was rising. If you go to the IBB's book, he really described how all those pressures was rising and everything. And before you know it, there was a counter coup. So the counter coup was then to, get back at, take over from Aguiyi. So when Aguiyi was killed, Yakubu Gowon took over, and Yakubu Gowon is from the Hausa part. So it really caused a lot of chaos. But we were thinking, according to the story, as you get to listen to the story, that should have just been it, but there were a lot of agitations because of that killing. The Hausas also started killing the Igbos that were in their own state, because the Igbos, like I told you earlier, they like traveling, so they really travel to so many Hausa states and Yoruba states. The Igbos are everywhere. So, and they build businesses, like I told you, they're enterprising. So because of the killings and the burning of their properties and everything, Chukwemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu called for the Igbos to come back to the eastern region, so that most Igbos had to sell their properties at cheap rates and everything, according to the stories. And then they came back to the eastern region, So as the leader, Chukwemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu had to make moves, to seek peace, so that the killings will stop, because most of these houses were, very angry about the coup, and the counter coup was, it went haywire and they were killing a lot of Igbos. So because of the peace talk they wanted, they decided to meet in a friendly zone or area, somewhere that is neutral. So they went to Ghana, Aburi. So Aburi in Ghana, to have a peace talk. So that Aburi, that's why you can hear about Aburi Accord. It's about the agreement reached in Aburi, Ghana. So they reached an agreement because Ojukwu had to, tell them, okay, if they're gonna be peace talk, you need to give Igbos, the ability to manage their own economy, what comes out of their, their region. You need to also, restructure the system, allow this to rule, allow that to rule, so that everything will be equitably distributed and nobody will feel, like it's being cheated on. So the thing is that Gowon actually agreed to that, and that Aburi, according to the story, allegedly. So everything allegedly. So he agreed to that, but when they came back, he created more states and made some rules that there's some rules that he played out that made Ojukwu felt like, oh, he didn't honor the agreements they did in Aburi, Ghana. So because of that, Ojukwu down declared the eastern region like he called them Biafra. So he's like self-acclaimed that as their own country now, so that they will just withhold from Nigeria and get off Nigeria, right?
If civil war comes, and I do think it is imminent, you're quite right. It will for us be the price of freedom. Our people here have for a long time been prepared for this eventuality, and I am confident of their readiness. I think that when it does come, that the people on the other side would be surprised as to what they're going to get. And I'm confident that it will not last long. I can't say for certain what Lagos has got. When we lost direct contact with Lagos, they had some 4 battalions, ill-equipped, and I know that they have been purchasing a lot of arms since, and I know that they have negotiated and received a few armored vehicles. Prior to that, they had some scout cars. I know they have tried to get planes. I am not sure they have got them there. But on our side, we too have not been sitting quietly. There has been quite a lot of build-up. And I think what I have here is sufficient to maintain the integrity of Biafra and more.
So, but because, it can't be so, because it's somehow, understandable, because the northern region that they were in power, they wouldn't allow that to happen. And some people would say it's because the northern region is landlocked, so they don't have access to sea for importation and all those things, and unlike the Yorubas, and they have access to sea, so they could possibly live on their own, that kind of thing, if Nigeria divide. And the Igbos, being enterprising, and also the oil being mainly from that region, they'll capitalize on it and grow their economy and all that. So the Hausa that were in power had that power as the advantage, and they wouldn't let that happen, so some say. So that's why they didn't want, the Igbos to pull away from Nigeria and all that. So the story has it that, as Chukwemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, acclaimed that name Biafra for the eastern region. So the Nigerian government didn't find it funny, so they had to, implement some certain things that, really, really cost a lot of lives. Rest in peace to those that died during that period. So they cut this food supply, the economic meltdown, anything that is traveling, like all the supplies going to the Igbos, food, drink, anything, ammunitions, anything, because most of those things have to get clearance, because they are imported. Most of them are imported, like the fish, crayfish, most of the sources of the protein, then, they were imported, and, most of the seas that the Igbos could go fishing in, they took it over, just to like put a pressure on Chukwemeka Ojukwu to yield, to being part of Nigeria to the eastern part of Nigeria being part of Nigeria. So, but he wouldn't. So a lot, because of that cut of food supply, a lot of children lacked protein. That's why most times when you see in international televisions, them showing the African child and all that being malnourished and all that, that was dated way back then, because they had a lot of kwashiorkor, like protein deficiency. It was a lot. It killed millions of children, because of that cut in food supply. But Ojukwu didn't mind, he kept pushing, for them to get, that independence from Nigeria. And it really cost a lot of life. So the war started in 1967, at about July, I think, 1967. And went on and on and on and on and on and on till about January 1970. Like a whole 3 years of bloodshed, death, war. You don't want to experience that. It's not a good thing. War is not good. War is not nice. So, after the war, the kwashiorkor, the food chain supply was really dealing with, the Biafrans, and a lot of deaths everywhere, and it wasn't so nice. So Ojukwu later had to flee to towards the end of when they captured, I think, Owerri, according to the books I read. So he fled and leaving Stephen Effiong, his assistant, to make peace with Nigeria. And, that was how the war ended. But a lot of, scars were already there, because even after the war, there were still, complaints of soldiers, Nigerian soldiers still molesting the Igbo soldiers, still taking away things from them forcefully and all that. It was really an international, it was a global, crisis, in the sense that, a lot of countries were involved, in aiding, in also, seeking response. Their citizens were also calling for the nations to help, so many nations, So it wasn't really something so easy. So it wasn't a good time for Nigeria. It wasn't a good time. But recently there's still that Biafra struggle is still going on. Another man came up, Nnamdi Kanu, and in a group called IPOB, Indigenous People of Biafra. So the struggle is still on silently, a lot of killings, and we can only hope that it gets better someday. But how is it gonna get better? Because if the Hausas are scared that if they give power to the Igbos, they would divide the country. And they can also divide the country because, as some people say, the northern region is landlocked. So, and they hold the power. They could, since they know that they can keep Nigeria going by, doing all it takes. So it's as if it's not gonna be possible, because the Hausas won't let it happen, because they don't want to be alone, and they don't want the privileges they get, to go. And the Igbos won't stop because they want to go. So you see, that's a problem. And that's why it keeps being a problem, because even when the Igbos say, okay, we're not going, give us a seat in the government, to rule and not to be part of those that rule, make us feel belong. The Hausas feel threatened, or Nigeria feel threatened that they will divide the country when they get in. So it's really kind of a web, because you can go here, you can go there. So everything just keeps circulating. It's really gonna be a tough one. like it's gonna be a tough one. But what do you think? Drop it in the comment section. Maybe they can reach an agreement that if they separate, maybe Biafra should be paying Nigeria some maybe commission from their oil, maybe a percentage from their oil, but then they can go. Do you think that would solve the problem? I don't know. So, but maybe it wouldn't, because in every conflict there's someone gaining from it. So those in power that basically might be from the north, that might be gaining from it, won't really feel like they'll gain much, by percentage, when they can have total control. So what do you think? Do you think that there's gonna be any change, or we're gonna keep running around the circle? It looks like there's no end to this, but we all hope that no matter the political brouhaha going on, it doesn't cost life of people. That's where the problem is. People are dying because of all this. So that is where it's very ugly. It's very ugly. So that's more of the Nigerian story. And IBB was more of like explaining that it's not an Igbo thing, that it's a quest for a better Nigeria, to run away from corruption. Like, it was a coup that involved, every tribe, in a quest for a better Nigeria, in a quest to end corruption, in a quest to, have a good nation. So that's how the war ended, and the political structure of Nigeria has been almost the same from then up till now. So power has almost always been concentrated in the north, and we just have to watch things unfold. Maybe we keep running around the circle. But if they can do anything, please, no more death. People shouldn't die. That's the ugly part of the whole thing, So can only hope for a good future. So this is all totally based on stories that, were gained from, things being taught in class to me, and from what I read, and also videos I watched, YouTube and all that as well. So, you get to know things, you grow, you get to find out information about what happened and all that. So tell me, what do you think would save Nigeria at this point, that would make everyone feel adequately compensated? What do you think is the solution forward? Or do you think we'll keep running around the same circle because of the obvious reasons that, a lot of people have said? Do you think there's hope? Do you think? Let me know in the comment section, okay? Cheers, guys.